All right, let's get started. So the topic for today is setting up a schedule, and we did a talk on time management and self-organization last week, and towards the end of that lunch and learn, we kind of got on the topic of setting up a schedule. And I feel like we can go maybe a little bit deeper today on that. I don't know that this is going to be a long one. I'm thinking more like 10 or 15 minutes here, but maybe just talk about a couple of different things when it comes to setting up a schedule, just because the relevance of the moment right now. And I think people maybe not having a schedule and how that could create a lot of chaos right now because as you we know, we're all kind of trapped in our houses. And again, I don't want to downplay the fact that, hey, we're doing okay. We're able to get on here at noon and do this call. We have work responsibilities. We have family responsibilities, friend responsibilities. Like, we're lucky that we have that right now, because there's a lot of people right now that are not in our situation. So I want to be sensitive to that. But there are definitely challenges going in this time, where we're used to having that routine of waking up in the morning, going to work, having our own time to do the things that we need to, and then being able to shut that off when work is over. Now everything's just kind of bleeding into everything. I've got two little kids at home, and it's the 4-year-old, we got to get his pre-K work done. My wife has to do her schoolwork and her responsibilities to her classroom. I've got my college schedule and my responsibilities to them, as well as the business and employees, trying to keep these lunch and learns going so we can continue to communicate and feel that connection to the gym. So there's, again, I don't want to be complaining. It's just a unique thing. And I think without having that real good set idea of what we're going to do every day, I think it's challenging. I've noticed the days that I stay pretty strict to my schedule, I have a lot less stress. The days that I don't, whether I watch the news or not, which can obviously add to the stress, I might be able to still check in on that stuff and not be so overwhelmed by it when I have kind of a stronger schedule and a stronger kind of, here's what I'm doing right now. And I think the most important takeaway from today is really going to be this idea, and this is what we got on in that last meeting last week, was this idea of full engagement, right? Being completely engaged in the task that you're doing, right? Right now, I'm doing this lunch and learn with you guys. I should be completely focused on the 4 slides that I have, the people that are on here, and recording a good one for people to be able to view this at a later time if they weren't able to make it. That should be my number one priority right now in the moment. But obviously there's a lot of other priorities that I have going on in my life right now. So it's challenging when you let the past, things that you've done, and the future, things that you're maybe worried about, kind of invade in this moment. Whereas if we keep these blocks of 2 to 3 minutes, what can I do within the next 2 minutes, within the next 3 minutes, that is the next right step, I think that really helps. And sometimes that's just going to be setting up a plan. If we don't have a plan and we don't have an idea of what we should be doing throughout the day, it's going to be really, really hard to feel like you're doing the right thing in the moment. Because in the moment, I might want to go watch television, right? Or in the moment, I might want to go eat a piece of chocolate cake or something like that. That's typically, like, if you just kind of let your willpower take over, I think that's what you get more of, especially in a stressful situation like we're all in right now. So, setting aside the time to create an idea of what your schedule looks like, and I think the only way to do that is through looking at your priorities, right? So what are the things that are important to you? And you're going to rate them. So self-care, if you don't take care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. So I think I'm going to suggest that should be at the top of the list. It may not be for you, but I think that's an important piece. Family, friends, your work responsibilities, the daily tasks, the just mundane things like brushing your teeth and eating and being able to clean up, take out the garbage, just those basic daily things that we have to do in our homes. And then just anything from there that you guys would need to add. I think the exercise that would be helpful here is just have a blank sheet of paper and write down all the things that you think you need to be doing on a daily basis. and then you rate them, and then you get an idea of how much of a percentage of time should I be spending with self-care? Like, what do I really need? How much time should I be spending with family? How much time should I spend with friends? How much time is my work responsibility going to need right now? It might be sporadic, kind of on and off throughout the day, but I think the only way for you to be able to jump in and out of those things easily is to have a set time to do things and have that schedule set up. So if I know at noon I'm going to do this lunch and learn, 5 minutes ago, I was dealing with something, just getting my son set up on his homework downstairs. So, that's where I think in the past, when I've done things like this, it's hard because you feel like you're jumping back and forth from family to work and work to family, really, really tough. But when all right, for this 30 minutes, I'm going to be focused on this, and then I can go back down there and do that. I'm letting the schedule dictate what I do. And it's all been based on priorities that I had set earlier. If I know for me personally, I would let probably work take over, because there's always going to be more emails. There's always going to be more things to do, things to tweak on the website, things to add to the resource page right now, videos that need to be uploaded from these lunch and learns, like staff members to reach out to, clients that we haven't heard from, who we don't know what they're doing, if they're sticking with their membership or not. There's always going to be something to do. And if I don't say, hey, at this time, I'm done doing that, and I'm going to go and deal with other things like daily tasks or family stuff, or even self-care things that I need to do. If I don't set that time, then I'm going to be dealing with things like friends and family, but thinking about all those other things in the back of my head. So it's going to be constantly running, maybe at a low level, but it's back there, and it's taking up psychic bandwidth, as David Allen would say. He wrote a great book called Getting Things Done. It's a lot of these ideas are based on that. So, I think setting up that list, what are the things you're doing on a daily basis, list them top priority down to the least priority. And then what is the percentage of time per day you think you should be spending on it? Now, that's not saying that you're going to be complete once you do that. I think the next thing that comes in is when you do create that schedule, and this is what ours looks like right now. I don't know how small that's showing up on the screen, but we have everything blocked out in 30-minute blocks right now, and we're trying to combine a lot of work and family time, playtime, times for daily activities like breakfast or bedtime routine, things that have to get done, college work that's in there when I have to meet with my college class on certain days. All that stuff's there. I set this schedule up 2 weeks ago when we went into this quarantine period, and I've tweaked it 3 times already. So just because you set a schedule and set those priorities, you've got to also set a time, maybe on a Friday, where you go back and look, or maybe a Saturday morning, you go back and look and see how effective that schedule was. Where were the pitfalls? Where did people maybe get angry at each other and say, hey, you were supposed to be doing this and I'm doing this. Like, those are, if you don't go back and take notes as you're, going through this, it's going to be really hard to know what you need to change. So, blocking out just those times. This is a simple Google Sheets. It could be written on paper. It doesn't have to look like this on a computer. It could be just written out. What's happening with all those blocks? It may seem ridiculous to write something down like family walk or dinner. Like, can't we just live life and just do what we want to do at the time? Like, for me, if I do that, I'm not getting anything done, because I'm just going to let the moment make me decide what I'm going to do, rather than actually have time blocks where I'm going to do it. So really important to set that schedule and realize that it's not something that has to stay static. You can change it. And then, just to review what we've talked about, and then we'll go to some questions here. Setting priorities, right? Being able to set that list. What are the things that that's important to you? How much of a percentage of your time do you want to use? So assigning percentages to each of those things, taking notes and tracking throughout the week, and then adjusting for the following week. And the whole point of that is so that you can, while you're doing the task, you can be fully engaged in what you're doing in that moment, rather than letting the past of things that you did and maybe made a mistake with, or the things that you're worried about in the future, having that invade the time right now. Because at the end, I don't know, I know for a lot of people right now, and there's a lot of uncertainty, right? So from a financial perspective, I have no idea how long this is going to last. And I don't know how long, we're going to be shut down. There are a lot of things that I could potentially be worried about right now when it comes to the business. But with that being said, there's nothing right now in this moment of 2 to 3 minutes nothing's going to happen to me. I'm fine. I'm okay right here, right now. I can only take the next right step. And, whether it's, the business, what do I need to do? There's a ton of things I want to do as far as staff development right now. We have a lot of time. We're not teaching as many sessions. So I could get stressed about, hey, this is a great time for staff to get more education and things I want to put in place and film videos and put them on the website. I'm getting out into my future and I start getting stressed about it versus what would be one big thing that could move the dial for them right now? If I did have say an hour a day where I was just putting that to staff development, right? It just keeps it simpler. It chunks these big ideas and things that can get stressful because I'm thinking way out in the future rather than just thinking about what I can do right now to make a change. And a lot of those things, if I just focus on 2 to 3 minutes in my own head, that makes a big difference because you can do a lot in 2 to 3 minutes if you're really focused. We're not able to do a lot of stuff when we are not fully engaged in the activities that we're doing. And that's when I get myself in trouble, when I start to second guess myself and, get into this dreaming, visioning, but nothing's actually happening, right? And it's good to do that sometimes, but set a time limit on it. Sometimes you could be kind of like playing around with a project and just thinking of different ideas, and you never actually do anything. And then, my other example was not spending quality time. I've seen over the last few weeks, there's been moments we're on a bike ride and it's a nice day out and you're like, yeah, there are a ton of crazy stressful things going on. But at the same time, I'm on a bike and the sun's out and I'm with my kids. Like I should be pretty happy in that moment. And I'm noticing that I'm not. I'm just like completely bogged down and I feel foggy with all these things that I'm thinking about of what's happened and what's in the future. So, that's kind of my take on setting up why it's important to set up a schedule and have the schedule dictate your time so you can just be fully engaged in that thing on the schedule and then move on. If you guys have any questions, now would be a good time to jump in. So any questions or observations of things, examples of things that you do that may be helpful to people or things that you've noticed that you do that are maybe not helpful that maybe other people are doing too?
I think for me, when I try to do that, like block time for certain things,
Mm-hmm.
I sometimes underestimate how much time I need for a task.
Okay.
So like I'll set aside time for like my notes or paperwork that I need to get done. And I think it's going to take like 20 minutes and then I'll look at the schedule. And then like an hour later, I'm like, oh crap.
Yeah.
So I can't get anything else done. So how do you generally adjust for that?
Yeah. I think, it goes back to that priority list, and not now you doing notes, like you have to do the notes. Like I don't think in your profession, you can't get around it. So I think tracking and I think that will help you realize how much time you actually will need to do those tasks. But I've noticed the things that I end up like I want to do and I end up spending way too much time on. But here's a good, Laura, you're on the call. We've talked about social media stuff and putting time into Instagram posts and Facebook, which by the way, if you've been on Facebook, apparently I was just hacked and I have a picture of, I can't even get in right now. I just got the text from somebody and there's a picture, literally a picture of ISIS as my
oh my God.
Yeah.
What?
My thing. So I hope me doing this right now and being fully engaged in this is not actually allowing for something horrible to happen somewhere in my name.
Thank you for being engaged. But yeah, I can, if you need any help with that,
okay.
I know how to kind of reach out to Facebook and alert them of that.
Okay, I clicked on something and it still wouldn't let me in with the password. So maybe after this we can get on the phone and talk about that.
Sure.
But we've talked about in the past about social media and putting the time into that. And I know that it is helpful for businesses. But again, at the end of the day, there's only so much time. So if I feel like I'm not going to be able to put everything into it, is it, when I really evaluate how much time I'd need to spend on it, it became less of a priority than other stuff, right? We don't have a business where we deal in volume, like just get as many clients as possible and have people just kind of like coming through the door. it's more about, 50 to 100 people that are really into what we do. And a lot of times we could just pick up the phone rather than just kind of dumping content onto social media platforms. Not to say that we won't do that. And I think in our case, it's helpful for the people who are already members to kind of just see what we're doing and validate that we're a real business in 2020. Yeah, it's, from a marketing standpoint and actually like reaching out to people, it's always been more helpful to just pick up the phone. Right. So just being efficient. I think so, Greg, to your question, like I've just kind of said, all right, it's on the list, but it's not hitting the priority. It's not making it to the top of the list today. Maybe if we hit a certain revenue point, maybe I can add in a person or someone who would be in charge of that. But I know in my day to day, there's other things that I need to work on that are going to be more important. So, it doesn't really help you with the notes. I know you need to do that. But I think in my experience, the things that I've like done that with, where I think I'm going to have time to do it, and I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just cram this in there, this like social media piece, and it just doesn't get done to the level that it needs to get done because there's other things that are more important.
Right.
So, anything else, guys?
No, I think Frank, you've hit everything on the mark as far as things to remember when you do schedule yourself. I know I'm one of these people, like I think I mentioned before, I get pulled here and there. Mm-hmm. And unless I like you said, prioritize, it's not going to get done. I mean, so I think you pretty much hit every mark here, every bulletin that you've pointed out it's very good. Mm-hmm.
Good. Yeah, that's a good point that you bring up, like people, pulling you in different directions, or a call comes in and, sometimes you do have to take, like if it's an emergency, you have to take it. But I think the more you set up time where you, like in the morning for me, if I can set aside, make sure I get that morning routine in, that 10 minutes of meditation, set myself up for the day to be able to handle all the things that come at you. I'm kind of setting myself to have less kind of freak out throughout the day. Right?
Yes.
So like if I don't do that, I'm in a good mental state to take, like if somebody calls with something frantic, I can put it in its proper place and give it the right amount of freak out instead of like raising to the level of that person's freak out. Right.
Correct.
Making up that word, but it's like, it's like, if it's not, I think when you're setting those priorities, one thing I didn't talk about was kind of like, what's the end result goal? Like, what are you spending your time to try to work towards? So, if your goal, there are going to be those things that kind of come in and are stressful, but if it's only a small part of the bigger picture, then I think you can prioritize it and either put it off or be able to deal with it in a way where you're not going to take on that other person's stress, and that what might be, if somebody sends an email, it's probably pretty important to that person. Like I can't, if I just take every single email that way, I'm never going to get anything done that I have to get done.
I agree. Touche.
And it's nothing against those people. Like I want to be able to help everybody, but at the same time, there's a bigger goal of like having my company be a successful company, living a life where I feel like I'm putting time in for my family. And like, you could easily just get into overwhelm and just work all the time and not focus on those things. And I think the schedule is a big key. Setting those priorities and then allotting percentages to the schedule, I think, is the key to that.
Agreed. Well, you have quite an impressive schedule. I'm really impressed. It's like, wow.
Yeah, it looks more impressive than it is. It's a lot of like the same stuff over and over again.
No, but it's good. I think you might need a secretary later.
Yeah, right. I know. Well, that's the nice thing about technology. So the technology can pick up a lot of that.
Right.
Like once this is set, then I transfer things onto my Google Calendar, and then I share it, it's across my phone and the internet, or the, regular web-based version. I mean, there's a lot going on right now just between the college and the business and,
Oh,
family
yeah.
life and Francis's school and what my wife is dealing with, and then staff things that we're trying to deal with right now. So without having a schedule, it would get, and there have been some days over the last 2 weeks that it's felt like I don't even know how we're going to do this. But if we can you just focus on the 2 to 3 minute blocks and one piece at a time, I think, just focus on the next right thing. That's the only thing you can really do, because it's the only thing you have control over. I don't have control over the long term of the situation right now. I don't have control over the things that I've already done to put me in this position.
Right.
So the only thing I have control over right now is what I do today and what we, what I'm doing right now. All right. Anything else?
No,
Well,
this is
Laura,
a very good topic.
good stuff.
Really helpful.
Good
Thank
stuff.
you.
Good.
I'm gonna
Yep.
share this
Yeah.
with a couple people.
Cool. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get this one up quickly. I feel like the other day I re-listened to it and I did post the time management one, but I felt like this was an area that we needed to go a little deeper on, because it's so relevant to right now. I mean, there's just people are getting pulled in a lot of directions. So,
It's interesting for me, Frank, because what both Kathy and I are dealing with right now is, we are both currently working from home full time.
Mm-hmm.
And so in a way, work keeps us busier than we would have been actually in the office, because we're getting online earlier, we're working later.
Right.
So we have this opposite challenge of like, how do we make that division between Monday through Friday when it's work time and when it's free time?
Yeah.
And that line isn't so easy to make each day. But then what's really interesting is that the weekend comes, and usually the weekend is the time when I am like at my happiest, right? And I'm just like, yay, I get to do what I want to do. And like, if I want to sleep in, I'll sleep in. If I want to go do something, I'll go do it. And Saturday and Sunday come, and like, you're just staring at the wall going, okay, I have to do something with my day.
Right.
I can't go anywhere, and it's raining and it's gross out.
Yeah.
And so it's almost like I think what I could do is take this idea and almost adapt it to the weekend and say like, how am I going to schedule Saturday and Sunday so that I'm not literally sitting on the couch on Instagram just wasting the day away.
Yeah.
Like, I got to figure something out. I don't know what that is, but and I don't want it to be work, because work needs to also have not just like that's the fallback default.
I would create like a weekend priority list. Like, what are the you might have spent, and I'm not saying you did this, but you could see how quickly you could go to a place where like you are spending almost all day on news and social media, because you're just kind of like fried from the week, and it's just like it's just on autopilot. And that stuff is addicting too, like being when you get in there, especially with everything that's going on right now. So if you don't set a timeline on that, it's just going to take over. But then it's like, okay, so now we set a timeline, now we're not doing that, but now what do we do? So there's, it's like, okay, how much of a percentage of time do we want to watch a movie? How much of a percentage of time do we want to watch a good show? How much of a percentage of the time do I want to maybe read a book? It sounds cliche, or play like games. Like if the sun is out, then it's a whole different thing. Because then, like my wife and I have been talking, it's like when we go down to Florida for Easter every year, which we're not doing. We have a time when we go for a walk, and you just walk the neighborhood, and it's like, the day will go, it's a lot more laid back. But it's like, we didn't have set times on vacation, but like there was you did breakfast, and as soon as breakfast was over, you went for the walk. Right. So, it's just kind of, maybe just, you just need more guidelines.
Yeah. I think that's what we're
so that at the end of the day, you can go, hey, I spent, I know it sounds like geeky, but like I spent 60% of my day over the weekend on like quality things, and maybe only 5 or 10% on, social media. The screen time thing on the iPhone. Like that's like, and I'm sure there's an Android version of it. That's like one of the coolest things I do with my students is I have them open up their phones and look to see when we do our time management talk, like what percentage of time they're up in like 6 to 8 hours a day on not productivity apps, like social media apps. 6 to 8 hours a day. That's a full work day.
Yeah.
Like they're on it all day. Like, so, they say they don't have time. So it's like, do you have time, or are your just priorities just screwed up?
Right, right.
But again, there's a lot of things pulling us into that too. It's not just like we're making a decision to do that. And I'm not saying it's not our fault to a certain extent, but the stuff is addicting. It's designed that way. It's designed to keep you clicking and looking at more stuff.
Yeah.
So, maybe not work, maybe hobbies, maybe that's one thing that'll come out of this is people will come up with new hobbies.
Yeah, for sure.
Some other interest other than work.
Yes.
So, all right, guys, this was fun.
Thanks, Frank. That was a good one, Frank. I like this one.
Yeah,
Thank you.
a little bit heavier topic, but it was
No, it's really helpful though. Thank you.
All right, good.
Yeah,
Good.
it's
All right, guys.
practical. It's good.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
I'm going to try to get back to fitness stuff, but these are the things that are on my mind nowadays.
Well, clearly it's like very applicable to more than just you.
Yeah, sure. All right, guys.
Thanks,
so
Frank.
much.
All right. Thanks, Frank.
Okay.
Bye.
See you next time. Yep. Bye-bye.
Bye.